The house at dawn looked like a painting someone had left out in the rain. Familiar shapes softened, colors blurred by exhaustion. Kelly moved through it with the careful intimacy of someone who had learned to make small mercies count. A thermos of tea warmed, a feathered blanket straightened, slippers nudged into place. Outside, the city woke in a metallic hush. Inside, the pulse of a family had shifted. Mark slept as if he were guarding dreams. His breaths came slow and shallow, each one a small, defiant punctuation in a sentence that had recently become infinitely more precious. The diagnosis, the word that arrived on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday and rearranged plans like a storm rearranges deck furniture, had been set into a room that smelled of antiseptic and paper. Since then, the world had been a study of thresholds, hospital doors, waiting room clocks, the split second between hope and its absence. Kelly had learned how to look brave on television. She had learned to hold an audience with a smile that could switch on a switchboard of warmth. But there are private guillotines television lights cannot reach. The first time she cried for real was behind a door with a soft latch, the tears salted and sudden in the night when Mark's breathing was shallow, and the house kept its own vigil. She told herself the tears were private. They were also a map of the way she loved him, clean, sharp, and unashamed. They told friends and family in the tender, halting language of people who are trying to be both truthful and brave. It wasn't a press release. It was a conversation that felt like catching up with a neighbor who had come inside to ask for sugar and instead handed you a hand grenade. The news spread, not in headlines, but in the soft way a neighborhood learns about grief, casseroles at doorsteps, texts with praying hands, silent offers of help from faces you'd only seen at holiday parties. Mark, in the early days, tried to steady the story by being the kind of man who casts light on others. He joked through chemo's first round, making a grim and ridiculous parade out of hospital gowns, comparing for polls to performance art, letting himself be ridiculous so those around him could breathe. It helped. Laughter, even threadbare and halting, is sometimes the only kind of oxygen available in small rooms. But the chemo had its claws. Hair came away in small clumps, appetite fled, energy was siphoned. He still read the lines of his children's favorite books aloud, voice rough and sometimes thin, because some rituals guard the shape of a family better than anything else. Kelly was there through everything. She learned to read the calendar of symptoms, which days the drugs would steal appetite, which nights nausea would rear like a ghost. She discovered the small choreography of tending, how to warm broth so it tasted like love, how to coax a smile out of grimaces, how to fold blankets so they could become armor. She learned to be both advocate and buffer, the one who asked the pointed questions in the oncologist's office, and the one who rearranged a kitchen shelf so Mark could reach the mugs he loved. In the quiet hours, she would braid a towel and tuck it under his chin like a makeshift pillow, wondering at the audacity of tenderness. The early scans offered a brittle kind of hope, stable, the doctor said, which in the lexicon of illness is both relief and a caution. Fans and acquaintances who had seen them joking on the couch or feeding each other fries in interviews reacted the way modern kindness sometimes does, online loudly with the warmth of strangers who feel related to a family they have never touched. Messages piled in like soft confetti, emojis, prayers, offers to drop off meals. Candlelight vigils emerged in small corners of social feeds. The couple's phones hummed with a sympathetic chorus, and that chorus became a strange, sustaining thing, a feeling of not being alone in the dark. Still, the domestic truth of illness is stubborn. Your home becomes a map of small accommodations. The children, their faces grown up enough to understand, young enough to be tender, learn to take turns doing dishes, and to hide their own tears in bathroom mirrors. Friends rearranged schedules and began arriving with casseroles, books, and the kind of ordinary gossip that sounds like sanity. The bakery down the block put a tray labeled from the Ripa Consuelos fund on the counter and collected loose change. Neighbors who were good at practical things fixed drips and shelves and made sure milk was always in the fridge. There were darker mornings, too. A scan that showed progression, small and savage as a hailstorm. A night in the ER with fever that came like a thief. A conversation in the doctor's office about changing the treatment plan. Each setback was an adjustment, new meds, different side effects, the need for more patients than seemed available. Kelly would listen to the oncologist's word.